You might have spent your whole life feeling like you're too intense, too nice, or that you need to be more logical. Always trying to manage your emotions, adjust who you are, fit into places where you never truly feel at home. But maybe, just maybe, those traits that people have labeled for so long aren't flaws. They might be signs of a natural force within you, asking to be understood, not silenced. In this video, you'll explore the 8 most common feminine archetypes and how they influence your choices, your relationships, your emotional patterns, and even your most personal inner struggles. These archetypes aren't just fancy labels, they're internal maps. And when you discover your dominant archetype, the one that speaks the loudest inside you, everything starts to make more sense. You'll start to see why certain patterns keep repeating. You'll rediscover gifts you've been hiding. And most importantly, you'll learn how to use each archetype in a practical way without needing to change who you are. This video is for the woman who feels like parts of her are asleep, who's been adapting, shape-shifting, trying to understand why she's always caught between what she feels and what the world expects, or simply wants to go deeper into her self-awareness and bring out her best version in a real, conscious, and unapologetic way. You don't need to fix yourself, you just need to know yourself. If this resonates with you, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next videos. Let's begin together. For centuries, society has tried to fit women into rigid labels: saint or sinner, strong or submissive, cold or overly emotional. But the truth is, no woman fits entirely into a single role. Inside us, there are multiple feminine forces coexisting at the same time. And that's what makes our experience so rich. And sometimes, these forces have names. They show up in mythology, in movies, in stories passed down through generations. And the most incredible part, they also live inside you. They are the feminine archetypes. Each archetype represents a different expression of femininity, a way of being, feeling, and acting in the world. They're not rules or limitations. They're symbolic mirrors that reveal parts of your true essence. Knowing which archetype is most active in you today is like turning on the lights in your inner home. You start to understand why you love the way you love, why certain things frustrate you, why you feel deeply about situations that others easily brush off. And beyond that, you begin to notice dormant potentials, parts of you that have been quiet, not because they don't exist, but because they haven't been welcomed yet. This knowledge isn't just theoretical. It changes the way you relate to your body, your desires, and your boundaries. It helps you make decisions with more clarity, live with more authenticity, stand your ground with softness and strength. And it's not about choosing just one archetype and living inside that box. True wisdom comes from knowing how to integrate, balance, and allow different parts of you to lead, depending on the phase of life you're in. And now, you might be wondering, what are these archetypes? How do I know which one is dominant in me? And how do I use this knowledge in my everyday life? All of that, and so much more, you're about to discover. Let's begin this journey with 4 feminine archetypes that, although distinct, often live inside the same woman. Sometimes whispering, sometimes she carries something ancient, the power to enchant, to provoke, to inspire desire and awe at the same time. When she's in the light, the seductress is deeply in touch with her body, with her senses, and with the pleasure of simply being alive. But in the shadow, she may begin to believe that her worth depends on how much she is desired. She starts to hide behind seduction, afraid to be seen as she really is. Maybe you recognize her in yourself. If you naturally attract attention, if you express yourself beyond words through your energy, but deep down, you fear that no one will love you beyond the surface. A powerful real-world example of this archetype is Beyoncé. Her performances, her posture, her presence. Everything about her embodies sensual power. Beyoncé is not just desired, she chooses to be desirable, fully aware of the creative force that lives in her presence. Next, we meet the nurturer, the the one who comforts, protects, and supports. She's the mother within, whether she has children or not. She shows up in warm gestures, in quiet care, in the way she senses what others need before they even say a word. When she's in balance, she offers empathy, patience, and emotional strength. But in the shadow, she forgets herself. She overgives, feels guilty for prioritizing her needs, and ends up feeling drained, unseen, and unappreciated. You might recognize this force in you if you're always taking care of everyone else, yet feeling emotionally exhausted. Princess Diana is a powerful image of this archetype. Even within the rigidity of royalty, her heart spoke louder. Her empathy reached beyond status, and the world felt her presence like a universal mother. Now we come to the Queen. Not the cold, distant image we often associate with royalty, but the woman who leads with vision and purpose. The Queen is order, structure, guidance. She carries responsibility, but with grace and focus. In her light, she's assertive, wise, composed. In her shadow, she becomes rigid, controlling, unable to rest or trust others to help. She carries everything herself, convinced no one else can do it right. You may connect with this archetype if people often look to you for direction, if you like to lead, build, organize, but struggle to let go or slow down. An unexpected, yet deeply fitting example of the Queen is Mother Teresa. Though she lived with vows of poverty, she led a global movement, built an international order, and served through deep organizational and spiritual power. She ruled not with a crown, but with moral authority and fierce compassion. Finally, we arrive at the carefree woman. She is lightness, curiosity, and spontaneous joy. She dances through life, embraces new experiences, and radiates the energy of someone who trusts the flow. In her light, she's creative, playful, and inspiring. But in the shadow, she avoids responsibility, runs from discomfort, and lives on fleeting highs. You may relate to this archetype if you come alive when you're exploring, creating, or starting fresh, but struggle to commit or sit with stillness. Ariel, from The Little Mermaid, is the perfect example. Dreamy, impulsive, longing for something more. She leaves behind safety for freedom, even without knowing what awaits. And for a more evolved version of this archetype, Elle Woods from Legally Blonde shows us how this energy can mature. She stays lighthearted and unique, while proving she's focused, capable, and true to herself. These four archetypes, the seductress, the nurturer, the queen, and the carefree woman, are just the beginning. Maybe you see yourself in one, maybe in all of them. That's okay. Self-awareness isn't about fitting into a box. It's about recognizing the forces already living in you and learning to use them with wisdom. In the next part, we'll explore 4 more feminine archetypes, each one powerful in her own way. And maybe one of them has been calling you for a long time, just waiting for you to listen. Now that you've met 4 feminine archetypes, it's time to dive into the other 4, equally powerful and essential expressions of our psyche. Maybe you'll find a reflection of yourself here. Or maybe, for the first time, you'll be able to name a part of you that's always existed in silence. Let's begin with the mysterious. She doesn't feel the need to explain herself. She doesn't rush to open up. The mysterious woman is someone who carries an entire world in her eyes. You can sense she's seen a lot, and probably felt even more. This energy shows up powerfully in Morticia Addams from the Addams Family. With her piercing gaze, calm voice, and magnetic presence, she enchants effortlessly. She speaks little, but when she does, you listen. There's always something unspoken, something captivating. In her light, the mysterious is intuitive, elegant, magnetic. In her shadow, she can become distant, cold, hard to reach. If you feel that few people truly know the real you, or if silence is where you feel most powerful, this energy might be quietly alive in you. Now, let's move to the Maiden, an archetype often misunderstood but deeply present in the feminine journey. She represents that phase in life when we still see the world through wonder, when hope is still stronger than fear. The maiden dreams, idealizes, and trusts. And none of that is weakness. It's courage in the form of softness. A classic example, Alice from Alice in Wonderland. She's driven by curiosity and an open heart, diving into the unknown without losing her essence. In her light, the maiden brings sensitivity, hope, and lightness. In her shadow, she can fall into emotional dependency, passive waiting, or the fear of growing up. But we've all been, or still are, Alice at some point in our lives. And then we meet the natural, one of the most authentic expressions of femininity. The natural woman doesn't need to prove anything. She lives with truth, speaks from the heart, and feels at peace with who she is. Think of Hermione Granger from Harry Potter. She's intelligent, grounded, and never hides who she is. She doesn't try to please, she just is. In her light, the natural lives with integrity, ease, and confidence. In her shadow, she may isolate herself, avoid the spotlight, or feel like she has to shrink to be accepted. If you find joy in simply being yourself, and you value what's real, this archetype is likely alive in you. And finally, we arrive at the spiritual or divine woman. She's the woman connected to something greater. It's not about religion. It's about an inner compass. She lives with purpose. She walks with faith, speaks with wisdom, and radiates peace, even in the chaos. This energy shows up beautifully in Moana from the Disney film. She hears an inner calling. She can't quite explain it, but she knows she must follow it. Even when no one understands, she trusts. In her light, the spiritual is centered, loving, and strong. In her shadow, she might disconnect from her body, deny her desires, or demand too much of herself in pursuit of purity. But in balance, she heals herself and others. These four archetypes, mysterious, maiden, natural, and spiritual, complete the symbolic circle that lives within every woman. You may have recognized yourself in more than one, or maybe you're in transition, feeling the awakening of a new force. And that's okay. Because what matters isn't fitting in, it's integrating. It's knowing that you can be strong like the queen and still soft like the maiden. That you can be seductive and spiritual at the same time. Your nature isn't a straight line, it's a cycle. And the more you understand yourself, the more freedom you gain to live your truth. And now, it's time to answer the question, how do I discover my dominant archetype? And even more importantly, how do I apply all this to my life? Because that's what truly matters. The answer begins with self-listening. Your dominant archetype isn't the one you wish you were. It's the one that's already there, showing up in your spontaneous gestures, in the emotions you feel most intensely, in the choices you keep making without even realizing. It shows up in your relationships, how you love, give, or protect yourself, in your decisions, whether you act with impulse, strategy, heart, or faith, in your inner conflicts, those patterns that seem to repeat over and over, and even in the compliments and criticisms you hear most often. One powerful way to identify your dominant archetype is to notice what moves you. What kind of story makes you cry? What character feels like that's me? What type of woman do you admire or secretly judge the most? Because often what you judge is what you're hiding, and what you admire deeply is what you're longing to reveal. Another strong clue is to pay attention to what throws you off balance. The shadow of your dominant archetype is often the biggest source of frustration in your life. The seductress, when out of balance, may feel rejected, insecure, or needy. The queen, when wounded, tries to control everything and struggles to ask for help. The maiden, in her shadow, loses herself in emotional dependency. Recognizing this isn't a diagnosis, it's an invitation. Because when you know where there's too much or too little, you can start to balance. And that's where archetypes become truly practical. Imagine knowing exactly which part of you needs to take the lead when you're facing a big decision, or which energy you need to soften when you're reacting on autopilot. Knowing that today you're living as the nurturer, but your queen needs to show up so you can set boundaries, or that your seductress needs to come alive again because you've been disconnected from your body, your pleasure, your presence. That's the power of archetypal language. It doesn't put you in a box. It gives you the keys to each inner door. And the more you get to know these forces, the more consciously you can navigate life. You stop fighting your own nature and start building your reality from the inside out. If you've made it this far, you've probably realized there's a lot inside you that hasn't been fully understood yet. Maybe some things just clicked. Maybe you saw yourself in more than one archetype, or maybe you realized that some patterns you saw as flaws are actually parts of you that just need balance. What matters most now is this: you don't need to change who you are. You just need to understand the forces that live inside you and learn how to work with them. And this video is just the beginning. There's more content on this channel to help you go deeper into your self-discovery, step by step. Click on the next video that's about to pop up here on the screen. I'll see you there. Thanks for watching.